Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We are the ladies and professionals of Holistically Speaking. We are all certified integrative mental health professionals, and we have other disciplines too. Sorry, I had to I had to speak slowly because sometimes I forget what our credentials stand for. But we're here today again to be with you, to educate you, to talk with you, and thank you for joining us. So, before we start introductions, I'll introduce myself. I'm Reynolda Jones. I am a licensed clinical social worker located in the state of Michigan. I'm licensed to work with individuals in Michigan, New Jersey, and Vermont. I have a private practice called A Solution B. It's a holistic mental health private practice specializing in treating women who are leaders and entrepreneurs experiencing stress, anxiety, and PTSD. And what about you, Sheila? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Reynelda. I am Sheila Ivlev. I'm an occupational therapist based in California. So my practice is OT Bay Area. And Reynelda, you have a beautiful pitch. I still do not have a short little blurb to explain what I do. Occupational therapy is very complicated. But in a nutshell, I work with adults on their mental health and well being. And we do stuff. We work on skills that you can use every day. And I also am a consultant. So I work in my business, which is WellWorks Consulting, with companies and institutions that care about the well being of their workers. We are at work like a third of our lives, right? You're either asleep or at work or thinking about work. So your mental health at work is very, very, very important. What about you, Dr. Catherine?
I'm Dr. Catherine Jackson. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and I'm board certified in neuro. I am the owner, founder, all the good stuff of Optimal Neuro Holistic Services, where I focus on the brain, holistic health, and wellness. And I help individuals to rewire their brains, their mindsets, and their behaviors. And today, before we get into our topic, I just want to remind people, like, if you've gotten our ebook or have you gotten our ebook, please share that in the comment section. And if you have not gotten our ebook, it is available. Mood boosting foods with recipes and stories about food from all three of us. And so you can go ahead and try to check it out. It's only $5, and we're all selling it. And so you can get a copy for yourself, get a copy for a loved one, and then get a copy for like a coworker. So you can get one from each of us, and there's the information scrolling across the bottom right there. So some delicious recipes, including a salad, a meal that Renelda has in there, and a really tasty drink that Sheila has in the book. So if you've gotten it, share with us. Share with us if you've tried any of the recipes. We want to hear from you. And if you haven't gotten it, snag your copy now. Snag that copy. So what's our topic today, Sheila? What are we going to be focusing on?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a hard topic. Boundaries. Okay.
Yeah.
Because boundaries are really, really, really hard for me. I just want to ask before we even get into it, are boundaries easy for either of you?
No,
Yeah.
it depends on who it is, I guess.
Right?
Have good times and then I have not so good
Yeah.
times.
So we're going to be talking about healthy boundaries today. And I don't think this is easy for most people. A lot of it has to do with our families, how we were brought up. There's even cultural significance here. So I'm a South Asian woman, and it is really, really hard to set personal boundaries. Things like saying no, I'll do it later, like actually giving physical space. I grew up in multifamily households, and we don't know what space or privacy is. I grew up and I wasn't allowed to close my door unless I was changing. If my door was closed, my mom would barge in and be like, what's going on in here? So yeah, boundaries have been hard for me from forever. But what I do want to share is that there's a lot of benefit to practicing boundaries. And unfortunately, there is a lot of detriment if that is something that you are having challenges with and you're not able to set appropriate boundaries. So there was some research out of University of California in San Francisco, where I'm at, that showed that the more difficulty that people have in saying no, the more likely they are to experience things like stress, burnout, and even depression. So we talk about healing and wellness and our well-being all the time. And so practicing healthy boundaries is an absolute must. It is a necessary step in your healing, learning to set limits and boundaries, even with the people that you love. Okay,
Especially
Reynelda,
sugar
what do you have to say about boundaries?
Well, boundaries. It's easier with some people in my life than other people in my life. And I guess it depends on the role that they have in my life, too.
Mhm.
I went to a training not too long ago about boundaries. And one thing they mentioned was a lot of times when mental health therapists address boundaries with people, they are looking more on an individualistic level, more Americanized level, and not take into consideration people's cultures when it comes to boundaries. And so for some people, um, they have this there's a risk of losing your support system losing your support system if you set boundaries, and that may be due to a culture. I see it all the time. I work with different people from different backgrounds, or even people who are refugees. And then when I start talking about boundaries, I had to make sure, as a clinical therapist, that I'm being sensitive to that topic. So, saying no for me may be easier with certain people, maybe newer people. I don't know. So a little harder with my parents, though. And I think that's quite common from what I have seen. But I've also had to like sit down with my parents and like, hey, I get that this is how you were brought up, but this is what I need from you. And sometimes the conversation goes well, and sometimes not so much, and then we eventually come to understanding, and somehow we make it work. But I know that that can be a challenge for many people.
Yeah. Yeah. The saying goes, it's easier to loosen than to tighten. So it's like you got to be tight with the boundaries kind of at the beginning. I know with the supervisees that I supervise, I'm not a tough person. So like, don't go out like thinking I'm all mean or whatever, but I'm less lenient in the beginning of the relationship. And then like after I get to know them and they get to know me, then I'm more likely to be like, okay, we can make an exception here and there. But if we start off with the boundaries where we are kind of, just willy nilly, it'll be harder to tighten those boundaries up. And then for me, I'll just speak for myself, and I'm sure some of you can resonate with this. Sometimes, like for me, if sometimes I'll meet somebody or going along in a relationship with somebody, a friendship, a co-worker, a family member, whatever the relationship is, and thinking that we're vibing and it's so lighthearted, it's so fun, only to see that they are really they're really trying to bend my boundaries a lot. And then in that case, when I think about like one morning, I remember it was this year. One morning I was looking in the mirror and I was like, who's breaking my boundaries, right? And I was like, it's you. You're breaking your own boundaries because you don't want to deal with XYZ with certain people, but you're allowing them to do whatever. And so I try to be firm. And the thing about boundaries, and I think you ladies would agree as well, is that sometimes we set the boundaries. We are very firm with them. We might do really good with them for a minute. and they just, I don't know, we just get a little loosey goosey with the boundaries, and sometimes we have to reassess those boundaries and kind of restructure them, reset them again, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. It just, this is just part of the boundary process, and I think the mind and the body, us as social beings, I think we want to not have to be so hard all the time, but and that's why the boundaries get loose. But I think that when we keep them, at least moderately tight, that's when we feel the best, because it feels icky when we're breaking our own boundaries, or when we're allowing other people to break the boundaries that we set. It feels icky. So.
Mhm.
And if I can add, if you can see boundaries as a way of self love and self compassion,
Yes.
it goes a long way, because you had some really important points there. Um, for some people, this can be with your coworkers, this can be with people that you love.
Yeah.
Um, that if they're not used to you setting boundaries, and then you start setting boundaries, they can get upset.
Yeah.
And so then you need to check yourself. Like, I love that you looked at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who is doing this to me? I am. So sometimes you do need to reflect and recognize what you're doing is necessary for your health, for
Yeah.
your well-being, because maybe you just don't have enough time, you don't have enough energy, whatever it is. And so I think this is something that all three of us work on in our practice. And so, whether you have a good friend that will just be honest with you, or if you have a therapist that you can talk to, it is really important. We need help with boundaries. Unfortunately, like I said, in our upbringings, in our cultures, it isn't necessarily something that we were taught.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just need that reminder, so that you're not being gaslit when you're doing the right thing and you're protecting yourself.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, somebody is just, being unfair and cruel to you.
Yeah.
It's funny too, Sheila, that you mentioned, you and I were talking, all three of us were talking in our group chat that we have, and the group chat is lit, guys. We have so much goodness in there, yumminess. Okay, but we were just talking about boundaries where I know I set really strict boundaries around work. I do not have work apps, work emails. I don't have work calendars. I have nothing on my phone that resembles work. When I am at work, I'm here at this computer, and when I'm not, I'm not. So that's one of the boundaries that I think I set and keep, and I do really, really well with. It's those relational boundaries that can get a little gray from time to time.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to set boundaries with yourself, even when it comes to interacting with other people.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Catherine had mentioned, I had someone recently tell me that maybe my boundary could be changed to make them comfortable and me comfortable. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. This is my boundary. It's not meant for you to be comfortable. It was created because I was uncomfortable, and I'm going to protect myself. And so, therefore, if you keep pushing on it, it's going to get firmer. And so, so they kind of backed up and they're like, okay, I understand your boundary. I'm going to respect it. Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You don't
Ooh.
respect it. I'm just going to have to go wherever,
And
because
don't be a self boundary buster like me, Renelda.
I have busted some of my own boundaries, and then I had to talk to myself and be like, "You said this, Renilda. You have to show that you mean that."
Yes.
So I had to set boundaries, but boundaries change like depending on region too. Even with in the United States, I've shared in some other videos that my family are from the South, and the South is known for hospitality. They give food, they give hugs. I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. And so when the pandemic hit, we had to go down there. They had a mask on, like down here, not up, not up here. And so I was like, fist bumping. That's the most I'm going to do. But most of them wanted hugs. I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot do that right now because of the circumstances. I got to protect me and protect my family.
Yes.
So even depending on a region, your boundaries may have to change.
Hmm.
So we are nearing the end of our discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can just close us up, and I just want to say, we want to hear from you. Okay. So comment, reach out to us, let us know what you want to hear. Tell us about the ebook, tell us about your journey. Like, comment, share. Take care.